reconciliation, AMGC acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to the land, sea and community. We pay our respects to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders peoples today. And that applies for all the places that we're coming from today, whether you're in lockdown or whether you're in your offices. So thank you. And we might just get underway. So we have Sandra from Centrum Printing joining us today. So thank you, Sandra.
Hi.
And we're also joined by Brad Parsons from Movis. So what we might do to kick off proceedings is we might get you to introduce yourselves, and then we'll quickly talk about the change of manufacturing before we get into services itself. So Sandra, would you mind providing an introduction to yourself and the business?
Sure. So my name's Sandra Duarte and I'm the CEO of Centrum Printing. We're actually in the midst of rebranding at the moment. So we're actually rebranding into Centrum Group. So that transition is actually taking place at the moment. So we're an Australian print manufacturer, family owned, and we basically specialise in commercial printing as well as packaging and point of sale displays. And we have a niche market, I guess, because we have two of the largest sheet fed presses in the country, which allows us to have a size advantage in terms of producing and manufacturing a lot of the retail display work, which a lot of that was being manufactured overseas. So we were able to bring some of that work back to Australia, which is great. I've been here for about 13 years now. And, you know, I think that, you know, what we do here is quite unique and we're really trying to lead the way in Australian print manufacturing.
Great, thank you. And Brad, would you mind giving us an overview of yourself and Movis, please?
Sure, thanks Tyson. Thanks for the opportunity to be on the panel today. We're an IT services group, effectively. We operate out of Brisbane. We have built a product we've called Fit Machine, which is an industrial machine monitoring platform. So it starts with a sensor and has got a AI and platform backend. We monitor literally thousands of machines across the globe. We've got the units operating in about 14 countries. And the system's designed to detect machine failure in advance and give you real-time health and condition of the machine. We have sold that into predominantly manufacturing, sort of food and beverage, heavy manufacturing, largely building services or building supplies, so cement, steel, all the way up to oil and gas as well. So we have a similar unit for the oil and gas or the explosive zone industry. So, and we manufacture the units here in Australia, which we're pretty proud of. They've got the Made in Australia sticker on them.
Excellent. Thanks, Brad. So what we might do just to cover off manufacturing and its transition and evolution over the years is we might bring up a couple of slides that just talk to where we started and where we are. So in the 18th century, it was very much a focus on mechanical production, physical act of putting things together. By the 19th century, we started to move towards mass production and assembly, but with that brought the challenges of managing the input and managing the output. So logistics and distribution became integral. In the 20th century, robots started to become more present on the production lines. The logistics and distribution were still very key, but we also started to add design and sales to the other side because this whole process was where the value was starting to occur. And today, Industry 4 is all about the digitization, bringing in intelligent production, logistics, design and R&D on the pre-production side, and distribution, sales, and of course the topic for today, services. And what that means is that as manufacturing has evolved, the contribution to where the value comes from is less about just production, which is an integral part, but it's also the value generated from either side of that process in the R&D, design and logistics, the distribution, sales and services. And Sandra and Brad, you both sort of come at this from a slightly different perspective, given that your target market's different. But I think you both agree that that value that you derive from both pre and post is critical to your manufacturing operations today. Sandra, maybe we'll start with you.
Absolutely. I mean, look, we're more than just printers. At the end of the day, most printers, everyone can put ink on paper or produce a quality product and whatnot. So it's really about what service and value can we add to our customers. So I think these days we've really got to be innovative. We've also got to try and think outside the box and step out and be a little different to what everybody else is doing. A lot of our work, and you can probably see behind me, there's a lot of packaging, display work, is all unique. So everything that we do here is customized. No job is ever the same. So it's all campaign driven. We would be doing a lot of display work, packaging for Father's Day, Mother's Day, Christmas, back to school, whatnot. So it's very seasonal driven. So we're always looking at how we can also add value and what other services we can provide to our customers that is going to be more than just a product. At the end of the day, yes, they're buying a product, but it's really, I feel they're buying an experience. And I think that's how sometimes we've got to look at manufacturing. We are manufacturing, but we've also got to try and tie in an experience, which is taking that customer on a bit of a journey and basically giving them what they need, making it easy for them, and trying to help them add value as well to for us, we deal with a lot of resellers. So they're dealing with a lot of the brand managers. So it's also what can we do to add value and what other services can we provide as a business that's going to help them enhance their own customer brand as well. So for our business, that's how we do it. So I try to make it all about experience and how we can add value through different unique finishes that we can offer on these displays, through whether it's a touch and scratch and sniff element on a display, whether it's holographics, whether it's foiling, whatever that may be. It's trying to come up with something that's unique and provide added service to them that can help enhance their product as well and keep customers coming back. But ultimately, it's about experience, value. It's about creating a good customer experience as well at the end of the day.
Excellent. And yes, we'll come back to customer experience and the importance of CX. But Brad, I was trying to think about Movis and where it would sit. If you had a traditional smiley curve, there's almost your smiley curve because you've designed, developed and produced and got through the line. But then there's your customer's smiley curve across yours as well. So how does that value out of customer service and the services you offer after they implement the product important for your business?
Yeah, Tyson's essential, and just a credit to Sandra. I didn't think scratch and sniff was still a thing. So congratulations. But you're absolutely right, Tyson. We are literally the whole smiley curve. We design the firmware. We design the hardware. All of these. We contract manufacture with a couple of great local partners here in Australia. But we do absolutely all the rest. We do the sales, we do the distribution, and we do the services. And the services are really key. I mean, no disrespect to my team, but ultimately it's hardware and it's fancy maths, but it's the experience that the customer has at the end of the day. It's about how they change the way they work, how they change the way they maintain the machines. It's about trying to give them tools to empower them for better decisions. That's what it's all about. And ultimately we're bringing together all these industry 4.0 technologies, cloud, big data, analytics, all these things, they're all absolutely essential, but it's what the customer does with that information, what you can present to them so that to make their lives, safer and production, higher up times, all of these things. But in terms of the customer's smiley curve, we have a very loose definition of the customer. Customers for us can include an asset owner, maybe someone who makes cornflakes, all the way through to someone who makes the pump that might pump, the materials that go through that factory. So we're even working with OEMs, manufacturers, to servitize their business by adding our product onto their pumps at point of sale. They can now get visibility across the life cycle of how that machine's performing. And then they can add another service layer on top of that. So they can then service their clients who bought their pumps more effectively. So I guess you can think of it as almost a layer cake, and where the whole digitization of information, can add a whole layer of services on top of that. So it is multidimensional, I think.
While you're on that, our first poll question for today is: do you offer customized and personalized services to your customers? And Brad, it sounds like that's absolutely key to your business, and we'll continue to talk while the poll question is up, and I encourage people to answer. But you held up the orange device.
machine. Yep. Fit machine.
Yep. And then you held up the blue one. So were they developed in tandem, or did one become a reality because a customer came to you with a specific need? And if so, how did you find that out, and how was that as part of the service you offer came to be?
Yeah, great question. Absolutely, it came to be. We are a very customer-centric business. It came because multiple customers said to us, I really like your technology, but I can't put it in an area that is explosive zone rated. So oil and gas, dust, milk powder, anything where you can't light a match and things go bang. So we've developed that as actually a world first. We don't know of any other technologies being developed to that grade and that standard, or even operate in Queensland underground coal, which is the most intensive on the planet. So we've done a lot of work. And what we did as part of that process was we just interviewed the clients to understand their pains, their problems, their challenges, how it can operate in the environment. So you can really get immersed in, the pains that they're looking for and the gains they're trying to achieve as well. So that's absolutely the way we do it. And in terms of personalization of services, yeah, I have a team called Customer Success, and no surprises what the goal of that team is to make sure that the customer's getting the most value out of the product. They're able to transition to a new way of working as a result of the product. And it's really working with their individual customers to meet their goals and their challenges. So service is absolutely key to that.
Yep. And it looks like the importance in service means you can grow your business as well. So it's not just about retention, but it's also about growth.
Absolutely.
My background is in the automotive, or was in the automotive industry, as a lot of people would know. And, most people think of services, you turn up, you throw the keys across the counter, they change the oil and you bring it back. But it's so much more than that. It's that interaction and that relationship, but it's also the ability to add on services. And in the car industry, it could be accessories or other things. So, Sandra, we've got a question that kind of is a nice segue into your experience. You've been, as you said, with Centrum for 13 years. How has that customer experience evolved over time, particularly with the large clients that you service? I mean, you're talking about probably some bespoke needs across the country. How does Centrum approach that?
Okay, so as I earlier off air, is that Centrum's probably 7 years. We were just commercial printers. We've been operational for about 20 years now. And for most of that time, we were just commercial printers doing your basic, letterhead, that's, flyers, magazines and whatnot. So basically 7 years ago, we decided to become more than just printers and more than just commercial, because we saw that technology was sort of superseding a lot of the printed material. So we went out and we looked at, well, where was there an opportunity and where was there a niche? And we saw that there was a lot of work being produced offshore in terms of really large format sheet-fed offset printing with the display market and the packaging market. So we went out and bought one of the largest presses in the country, a German-made KVA, which allows us to have that size advantage, allows us to produce that work. So our whole business model changed. So our clients changed. We were then able to take on different client work. We were now producing display work that was UV, that had various finishes, size advantage. We were able to die cut and mount and actually offer a complete in-house service and that total solution. So that changed our whole client base too. So we started to deal with a lot more global print management companies, a lot more agencies who are all managing these larger brands. So, you're dealing with major brands, your Coles, your Woolies, Nespresso, all of these major brands are now working through agencies where we're actually got an opportunity to produce that work here in Australia. So for us, it's been great, and it's always about what can we add value? How do we provide that additional service and I guess add value to that agency so that they can then add value to the brand? Because every brand's looking to create something innovative. Everyone's looking to be out in the market and stand out, create that point of difference. So we're constantly having to work and see, well, what is it that we can add value to this product? Let's not make it just a display. How can we add some foil and some holographics to this, that once it's put out in the market, it's going to stand out from the other brands and the other competitors? So yeah, so our client base is very innovative. They're always looking for something different. They don't always know what it is exactly, but I think it's our job as manufacturers to try and see what we can do to add that value to that product.
Great. And Brad, you know, Movis is, well, it's a relatively new company in that regard. You've developed the technology and now gone to market. So from that initial phase of where you were doing the pre-production stuff to now where you're into the post-production, how has the team and the focus of the business evolved to take in services?
Yeah, I think when you're first sort of starting, trying to build the hardware based and all the software and all the AI, you're very, very inwardly focused. You're really trying to understand, how to build this and how to bring it to market. Once you're up, once you're scaling, once you're, at the size and scale we're at, with 14 different countries on our books, and multi-language, multi-currency, multi-time zone, multicultural, all the multiple dimensions you have to deal with means that your services has to evolve. We've got multi-language support, because we're dealing with groups like countries like Latin America, where most of the engineers do not speak English. Spanish is common in the plant, in the factory. So you have to kind of evolve the way you think about it, and you have to evolve your capabilities in the team. It's a different set of skill sets. It's an evolving set of skills. And it's people that, sort of multi-dimensional or multidiscipline, bringing in people with different backgrounds, different diversities is really great at this sort of, size and scale of the business, I think.
We might bring up the results of the poll question while we move on to the discussion as well. So do you offer customized and personal services? 70% say yes, and 30% say no. And there are circumstances where the service element isn't as critical as others, but it's always a great opportunity to build the value that you derive from your products and your business. Just thinking about both of you there for a moment, you talk about language services and the need for support out in the field and all of those sorts of things. And I'll throw it open to both of you. Do you consult external parties to help you in that area when you're growing or when you don't have an expertise in the area, or is it that you've resourced that in-house? And what are the benefits to the approach that you've taken for your business?
Ladies first, Sandra.
Well, we've got this philosophy that, look, as much as we're an in-house creative solution, sometimes you cannot be everything to everyone, and really trying to offer that total solution. Sometimes I find there's real benefit in collaborating. So within industry, so someone may have an element or a skill or a capacity to do something that we may not. And we sometimes will seek some collaboration with different levels of expertise in that area. At the end of the day, I think we all know our business better than most because we live it, we breathe it every single day, and then we know how things roll on a day-to-day. But we do call on sometimes external, whether it's consultants, to help us look at things more holistically from the outside in. And other times we also, and I'm a big advocate for, collaborating with industry, because, I say that we can't, what I can't do, you can do, and what you can do, I can do, and, together we do great things. So there's collaboration that sometimes, there's other people in the industry that, not necessarily competitors, but we like to collaborate and basically look at what can they help us with and what can we do and make that reciprocal to help both businesses grow. I mean, at the end of the day, we're an industry. We're not all individually, trying to scramble. I think if we work together and help each other at the end of the day, there's definitely potential to grow a stronger industry overall. We're all in it. So I think that collaboration, is definitely something we do from our end here.
Right. Brad, anything to add from your point of view?
Yeah, I'll just reiterate Sandra's comments. I mean, I think trying to have all the experts in-house is very difficult, particularly at this pace, rate of change that we're experiencing now. I mean, I mentioned Latin America. To try and get into Latin America, we had to involve multiple experts externally, even the Australian federal government through Austrade and TIQ. So getting them to help us grow into those markets has been absolutely essential. This greeny one here, we had to engage third-party experts who, sort of trained in building explosive grade products. You can't have all those sort of skills in-house, and we see it as very much as an ecosystem, building partnerships, particularly we're quite digital, so building integrations with large software companies, building partnerships with insurance companies, for example. There's a lot you can do when you actually sort of open your doors to partnerships and, and working collaboratively with players bigger than ourselves. We do that, and that's how we've managed to get where we are, is work with players where we both win. It's a win-win. And I think that's really the key, is trying to understand what's the win-win in any partnership.
Excellent. The whole idea of, you mentioned technologically driven and data. Big data, the focus on collecting data. I mean, Movis, that's the core of the business, is the data that comes back from the devices.
Yeah.
And I want to sort of approach this question in about 2 or 3 different ways. So, Sandra, for you, that customer data and understanding their needs and the unique requirements in each environment, be it a retail environment or an information environment, and I think every Australian is acutely aware of the keep 1.5 metres apart data signs, and then the safety requirements in each of those circumstances. How do you manage your understanding your customer, but understanding the requirements for the job that you're doing, and managing all of that data in a service environment?
Well, as I probably mentioned, or if I didn't, we deal with a lot of the resellers. So a lot of those resellers are big agencies who are all probably already capturing a lot of that data in terms of the brand. So they're already looking at shopper experiences, what's needed, what helps people buy, point of purchase. They're looking at all of that. When it comes to us, I guess for us, it's a very much a relationship driven, what we do here. It's all about relationships. So our customers, it all becomes about us understanding what it is with their product, how they're going to be using it, what is the end product, what is the time frame, how long does it have to be in market. We really need to understand all of that in order to be able to manufacture the best product. Because if something's supposed to be in market for 6 to 12 months, and they're asking us to do what we would consider a temporary display that would only probably have a lifespan of a couple of months, then we need to be able to provide that expertise and understanding and saying, okay, or if this is going to be outdoors or whatnot, we need to look at different finishes. We need to look at different substrates, whether or not we're printing on a polyprop or a board or whatnot. So it's really important for us to actually understand the client's requirements in terms of how is this product going to be used, for us to be able to bring our expertise in, rather than just say, okay, we want you to print or produce this. But for us, it's really important our team make sure that they try to understand exactly how is this product going to be used in the end. We try to get involved at that level to give us a better understanding of how better to manufacture that product, rather than just give them what they want, and at the end we find that it doesn't work. Yep. So it's about educating, and we often sometimes actually conduct site tours with our own clients and agencies. We try to bring their teams in to give them a really good understanding of the production process and what's involved, and different types of substrates and what happens. So we're creating that education, so it closes the gap on things going wrong or not getting exactly what they need.
Great. I'll just, an anecdote I was thinking of as we're talking about the data element is a project of ours with Siren Cameras in Brisbane. And Siren Cameras is GoPro for fishermen. I know that probably doesn't pay full respect to the product, but essentially you clip this device onto the line, and it can point down into the water and point back at you, and it gives you a fisheyes view of the world. So you can prove that the one that got away, that was this big, but really this big, actually was there. But as a happy bonus, the data that collects can now be sent live, or will be sent live, to potentially fisheries and other ecological needs to monitor fish stocks and species. So, Brad, you guys deal in data. It's effectively your business. So how do you bring all that data in? How do you manage it, and how do you monetize it? How do you guys do all of that?
Yeah, I guess So I love the fishing one. I tell my brother, he's a mad keen fisherman on that. So we effectively collect data, continuously from machines. I think I was in the office the other day, and we've processed about 140 million health samples across the fleet of machines we monitor worldwide. But what we do is really manage that very effectively. We've got a great partner with Amazon Web Services, so it's all cloud-based. In fact, the whole business is cloud-based. We can effectively run the business from home, and when COVID struck, we just all went home and kept going. So data is absolutely key to our business. How do we manage that? Obviously, there's a huge volume of data that's coming in with that many samples being processed. But also we're kind of looking at what's the value of the data? What's the value of the data to the customer? What's the value of the data to us? Can we draw insights that we can, present that back to the customer? We know, for example, that dew point is from the weather conditions is actually a big contributor to machine failure. And, I don't think many people are aware of that. So weather has a big impact. So drawing insights from data, I mentioned before, insurance companies. So, working with a couple of insurance companies where they can see the value of us being able to tell that the machine's failing. So that's really, quite important for their business. But ultimately, it's about, does the customer win or does the customer lose? So you've got to look at services where the customer's winning and winning in many angles. And I think if you can do that with data, fantastic.
And that customer experience element is key. So when I think of companies that do services well, or at least that everyone's familiar with, you think of the Apple Store, these big monoliths. But every element of that business is a service. I mean, we all have a phone, whether it's an Apple or not, doesn't matter. But you walk in and there's the Apple Genius. That's a service. And then you need your phone repaired or you need some advice. That's another service. By the way, have you thought about this phone protector or these headphones or this? That's another service. So, Apple has done a very good job about once that sale is made, how do we keep them sticky to Apple? How do we keep exceeding expectation? While some of us sometimes have a moan about service, that's one of their key points of difference. So how do you, Sandra, look at both that lifetime of a customer, but also how technology and other things help you then manage that service?
And as you're talking about Apple, when we say service, yeah, it's definitely service, but I also see it's an experience. It all comes as an experience. It's how it makes customers feel, how it makes people feel. And I think that's, with our business being manufacturing, a lot of it, we don't have, as much data capture as other businesses at this point, because a lot of it is very personalized, very customized, and everything we do is so different. So we're all about the experience. I mean, the experience starts right the minute they walk into our office. If they come in, we have a welcome with their name up on a huge screen, and customers feel that minute that they walk in, they're welcome, right through to meeting with our customer service team or account managers or business development and whatnot, and taken through the factory to understand how their job's going to be produced and manufactured. So we try to make it more about the value of their product and service, take focus away from price, because in our game also we can't always compete because we're Australian made manufacturing. It's never going to be able to compete price wise with overseas markets, but we try to make it all about the customer experience. And our sales team also, we have a dedicated dedicated customer service person for each account. So their job is basically to ensure happy clients, happy customers, and until that job's actually delivered. And then it's the call made after that. How was everything? How can we service you better? And they're constantly in regular contact with them. So we're always engaging in conversation as you would with a friend, and you touch base to say hello. We try to keep that relationship quite active, because that's really important. Because I always say we like to be the Panadol to our customers' headache. So I think it's really important that we provide the experience of their dealings with Centrum from the moment they talk to someone on the phone right through to their job being delivered and beyond that. So it goes, yeah, it's really important that after sales service continues. Yeah.
Right. Brad, it's a nice contrast with Sandra being very local. You can get people into the environment. You're talking about customers all over the world. How do you manage that, and how does technology play a role? Have you got an app? Do you use all of these sorts of things to make those customers all over the world feel like they're right next to you where possible?
Yeah, it's quite tricky, as you can appreciate. I guess we use a lot of automation in our engines. So we've got an automated engine. So if you can, within the app, you can ask questions and you can get answers from that. But it's really about trying to create that intimacy and trust. I mean, you can appreciate from our perspective, they're putting their trust in us to make sure that we capture the failures before they happen. So it's about building that trust and building that understanding of the client's challenges and their environment. So we try and use as many media forms as we can. For example, when they register a unit, we get them to take photos of the environment. So where is the machine set up? You know, what is the kind of environment they're sitting in? So we can get some context. And I guess context is really important depending on where you are in the country. You know, even words mean different things to different people. So we try and build sort of repositories and dialogues with our customers to understand what their goals are, what their success criteria is. Trying to build that level of trust and intimacy, I think, is really key, particularly in a services environment, because they're now not trusting you in buying the product, and then you walk away. They're actually trusting you in delivering on a service that sits on top of that. So I think, you know, you need to do both of those really well.
Right. It's almost like you segued perfectly into our question number 2 for the poll. And is your business considering sensors or digital feedback technology to offer customized services and performance back to customers? So we'll let people answer that as we continue the conversation. I just want to move quickly to what happens when it goes wrong. So, you know, customer experience, we can all talk about how it is when it's great and rosy, but when it goes wrong, how's the importance of that service, be it warranty, Brad, or something is delivered to the wrong place, Sandra, or the material that you were briefed on was for an indoor job when it turns out to be an outdoor job? What happens next? So Sandra, I might get you to just answer that one first.
Yeah, we're manufacturing, remember? So mistakes always go wrong. There's always things that will go wrong, and especially in manufacturing. And yes, we'll have that go wrong all the time. You know, not all the time, but things do happen. And I always think that mistakes will happen, but it's how well you deal with that mistake that the customer is going to remember. So things will always go wrong, but it's how well you provided a solution for that mistake that they will end up remembering. So we use that as an opportunity to rectify it. So if something has gone wrong, we try to understand immediately how we can rectify that for the client. And if that means having to redo the job at our cost, put on overtime, whatnot, we will go to great lengths to ensure that that is rectified. Because, you know, it's inevitable. Things will happen, but we need to be solutions orientated. So it's really about, it's gone wrong, but what are we going to do to fix it? And I think that leaves also a positive impression in our customers if it does go wrong, and we are very proactive immediately to help. We find that at the end they're very grateful and they're like, we understand what happened, but we really appreciate what you did and the steps that you took to make it happen. Obviously, and then we have to set a non-conformance and actually understand, because we have a quality accreditations as well in the environment, we have to actually understand, well, what went wrong, what can we do to ensure that that doesn't happen again, and their internal processes that we follow. But really, yes, it will go wrong, but it's how we deal with it and how we rectify it, which is really important. And I think that's what's going to help gain that client's trust back, because otherwise you could lose that customer forever.
Great. And Brad, you know, things will always go wrong, as Sandra said. Not always, but always.
Not always.
What's your approach, and how do you turn a possible challenge into a possible opportunity?
Yeah, and I think to just reiterate Sandra's comments, I mean, I use the word trust. Sandra used the word trust. Internally within the team, I call it the trust bucket. You know, how full is the trust bucket with this customer? Do they trust us? You know, do we have, you know, an understanding of their pains and gains? If you have built that level of intimacy and openness and collaborative communication, then the customers actually appreciate, the fact that you've jumped in, but also the fact that you're willing to put your hand up and say, actually, yeah, that was us. We made a mistake. We're going to work to fix that. And I think, when the customer hears that and they see a sense of ownership, that you recognize the problem, you're taking it on, and you're wearing the outcome, whether it's reimbursement or whether it's, credits or whatever it is, the fact that you're actually owning that and taking action, I think builds more trust, even in the difficult times. And I think that's our general response is it's open communication, it's frequent communication. It's not leaving them in the dark and, drop them an occasional email. You've got to get on the phone, get on the call, get on face to face if you can't be there physically, and just own the challenge and respond to it. It will go wrong. Absolutely. COVID's put, enough fuel in the fire for that one.
And mistakes help us provide opportunities to do it better next time, because at the end of the day, I think customers just want to be heard, they want to be understood, and they want to be cared for. And I think all of that gains trust. So I always look at, you turn a negative into a positive. So I say, well, there's a mistake that's happened. We need to rectify it, but how do we learn from it? How do we make it better for next time? What do we need to do to look at how we handle this customer differently or their work next time? So I think there's always a learning in every mistake. There's always something that's teaching us. So I think, like I said, it's the way we handle it and how proactive, and accountability. It is saying, and I often do, and we say we made a mistake and put our hand up. Sorry, we made a mistake and it should not have happened, but this is what I'm going to do to help you. This is what I'm going to do to fix it. And often enough, they're pretty happy with that. And then they appreciate the efforts that have gone over and beyond, and you can maintain that relationship moving forward.
Yep. Great. We might bring up the results of that second poll question, and while that's coming up, I'm going to pose a slightly different question to both Sandra and Brad. Michael Sharp would normally ask you about a book that you've read that talks to the topic, but I'm going to ask you about the encounters you've had of exceptional service delivery, but not from your business. So think of a time where you've encountered a service after something may have gone wrong, or you purchased something and you went, geez, that's good, I should remember that. And while you think about it, I'll just go through the results here and then I'll offer up an example. So is your business considering sensors, digital feedback technology to offer customized data and performance back to your customer? Look, it's yes, 44%. No, but would like to know more, 11%, and again, roughly about 40% that aren't at the moment. So a little bit of opportunities there for people to tap into the knowledge of the AMGC member base, and Brad, there might be some opportunities for you there too. Sure. So my experience, or the account that I remember of exceptional service was, I used to work for a premium Japanese automotive marque, which is renowned for its service. It's Lexus. And back in 1989, when the brand was launching into the US, they worked very hard to get some really good opinion leaders into their cars because it was a new proposition, new market, new price point, everything. And there was a problem with the car in the first week of people taking delivery of it. And this could have been a disaster. It could have buried the brand. Instead, they rose to the challenge and went over and beyond what would be the normal of driving a car back to the dealer, getting it fixed, coming back, picking it up. They turned up and did it in people's driveways while they were asleep. They sent trucks out, and it was done in such a seamless way that it became the stuff of folklore and basically seeded that first ever example of how Lexus would go above and beyond to service their customer base. And that has now, 30 years and more on, become the hallmark of that brand when they talk about how their point of difference is to their competitors. So, they took what could have been a disaster and flipped it on its head and delivered an exceptional service to their customers. So, Sandra, have you got an example somewhere? Or
I've had to dig deep, but I was just thinking, I haven't gone out much lately to have all of this sort of experience. However, one thing that I do find is pretty exceptional is when I take my car in for a service. I have a private, they give me a private driver, and that driver will take me over to DFO for shopping for 2 hours. and he'll be waiting for me to come back. So I'll just check in and go, car's going to be ready. They'll talk to him and say, car's ready. They'll message me, Sandra, half an hour, you're good to shop, a little bit longer. And they'll come and pick me up, bring me back, coffee. You know, for me, I thought that was exceptional. And again, you know, where we talk about service, it's the experience. Here is you just drop your car in for a service, and half the time you've got to figure out, you've got to bring somebody to take you back, and you've got to come back, and it messes up your whole day, and you think, no car for a little while, and you think, well, this company is now saying, okay, bring your car in for 2 hours. We're going to have somebody personally drive you over to the factory outlets, and you're going to go shopping for 2 hours. We're going to pick you up. So you create, you make a day of it. And I just thought that's very clever in terms of creating a really good experience, and also adding that extra service to customers. So that's the one that could come so quickly top of mind.
I wonder if DFO gets a kickback from the dealer.
Who knows?
Sorry, the dealer gets a kickback from DFO, I should say.
My car's never been so well serviced, let me tell you.
Excellent. And Brad, how about you?
Yeah, I'm going to give a recent one, but also a non-digital one. I'm like one of the many that's had renovations done in the last sort of 12 months. I put in a pool at the start of this year, or last couple of months, and the pool company, Wahoo Pools, quick plug for them. So Wahoo Pools are fantastic. You know, originally, you know, we had the pool. This is what the pool looks like. Little gazebo, little tiled area off to the side. Of course, the tiled area looks great. Oh, well, actually, can we get a gazebo put in? It was like, you know, just four poles and a couple of slats across the roof. Yeah, we can do that for you. Oh, that looks really great. And then my wife sort of says, see this path that goes down the house, you know, nowhere near the pool. Do you think that the pool guys could do that? She rings up the project manager. Could you do some paving up the side? Yeah, no problems. So the paving goes up the side. And then I find that the paving looks really bad when it comes to the front. So could you do a little bit of paving up the front? Sure, we can do that for you as well. You know, the job that was this big is growing to this big, but the whole time that Wahoo Pools is actually looking at the customer experience. The experience is great trades, great quality workmanship, great experience, you know, for us. You know, the whole thing's very seamless. There's a whole bunch of contractors coming in and doing that, but it's all invisible to us. We're just getting a great experience. And we found, I think it was one of the other contractors that came in, put the gazebo and cracked one of the tiles. No problems. We're going to come out and we're going to fix that. And, you know, that's going to all be done for you. But the whole time, all this magic was happening in the background. But, you know, we're getting this, you know, as Sandra said, this great experience on the end of it. It all became seamless, and, you know, no job was too hard, it would appear. I mean, they're all the same trade, so it wasn't a problem, but they could have been off doing other pools, but they really focused on us as a customer, rather than trying to do the next one and cookie cut it. And that's why, you know, we'd absolutely recommend them.
And it catches you by surprise too, like anything that you think, wow, or I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
Is what creates that extra level of experience. You think, wow, you leave that lasting impression. You know, we have this philosophy here, it's always under promise, over deliver. Yeah. You know, it's, you know, the client's expecting this, we want to try and give them this. And anytime you're anywhere, the minute you feel like, wow, I wasn't expecting that, or I felt great in that store or with that exchange or whatever, then you know they're doing something right. So if you can leave your customer feeling elevated, feeling better than what they came in or started with, then you know you're onto a good thing. Personally, I mean, that's my gauge. I think it feels good, and you're left with, didn't expect that at all, and I love it. You know they're doing something right. And
I'll flip that anecdote, Brad, on its head a bit. Come at it from the other angle. You know, sometimes we are all inclined to say yes, and then hang up the phone and go, what have I just agreed to? How are we going to do that?
Yeah.
Is that both a benefit but also a potential risk? How would both of you approach that with your service hat on?
For me, I mean, I'd approach it and say, we've had customers saying, can you build this custom widget over here that we want to plug into here and here? And my response is, yeah, we could do that. It would be very expensive. It would take a very long time. But, you know, that isn't the core business we're in. My next response is, what's the problem you're actually trying to solve? Like, lot of people come to you saying, can you do this? Or, you know, can you build that? I think you need to take it back to the problem I'm actually trying to solve is blah, 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 blah. Okay, well, we can do that. You know, here's the way that we would solve that problem. If you're building a solution, then you're not understanding the problem. If you go back to the problem, then you've got a much better chance of solving it. And the customers appreciate that. If you're actually willing to listen to them and listen to understand their challenges and problems and work with them collaboratively. And a lot of times I'll just say, no, we can't solve it, but I know someone who can, and I'll go out of my way to help you in that context. And, you know, then we get referrals. Oh, this guy was really helpful. He couldn't solve my problem, but he's really helpful. And I remember that experience. And I think if you can do that, you build a brand.
Right. And that, sorry, go on, Sandra.
Sorry, I was going to say, I agree with what Brad said also, but we also get a very different, we get a client who'll say, we've got this campaign and we know that that campaign takes 4 weeks to produce because of the complexities. And they'll say, but we need it in 2 weeks. Can you do it? And in those opportunities, and if you can't do it, we've got to give that to someone else who can. So that's the point where we go, yep, we'll do it. And we hang up the phone and go, right, I just said, yes, we've got to figure this out right now. And that's when we will call in team. We will look at what do we need to do to meet this timing? Do I need to put on extra personnel? Do I need to whatnot? But the customer understands that this is now 4 weeks is now 2 weeks and we're going over and beyond. But we're going to make this happen, because when we do make it happen, that customer's going to be like, wow, really appreciate you guys helping us out in that situation. They needed our help. So when we come in at that level, it's also a lasting impression. Can have a backflip where they expect that all the time. Again, we go, hang on a minute, that was just a one-off. But yeah, sometimes it is a case of, yep, we will do it and we will have to figure it out later.
And there's a question that's just come up, Sandra, to you, and it's how close, and it sort of relates to that, because if you're using agencies, how closely do you work with those agencies to receive your product or customer feedback, and that relationship between them in managing expectation, but also gaining the right information and brief and making sure that you manage all of that?
Yeah, and that's the tricky part, because sometimes these big agencies will have you know, account managers or booking in these jobs and whatnot, and they don't necessarily have technical experience. They're more order takers. So they will put something through that when we will get it at the other end may not make sense. So there has to be constant collaboration and communication. And that's why I was saying back earlier that we actually invite these teams in, because we find there's real benefit for them to understand what it is that we're doing. So they don't just send us an order and say, we need this by next week. And we're going, but hang on, this job has this process, this process. And there's like 3 weeks worth of work here. This is impossible to be done. So there's some educating, but there is constant communication. So these agencies have to be talking to our customer service team, our business development managers often. So they come in for press checks. We have to do prototyping. So we have to visit or we have to show them. So every step of the process has to be signed off, assured that it's okay before we proceed. Yeah, the relationship has to be quite tight, because we don't understand sometimes what the end use is or what their client, who is often the brand, wants or has said to them. So they're the only means of communication that we have in understanding the product.
Right. Brad, I might circle back to an earlier question and approach it from a slightly different perspective. The question was, do you collect data which you then analyze and sell as a service? So, you know, I understand that Movis in its simplest application is on a machine in a manufacturing environment that you analyze and predict failure and many other parameters. Yep. But what about that data and trends that you might see across particular motor manufacturers or equipment suppliers? Do you look at how you can then further that data and its value out to broader audiences?
Yeah, we are absolutely looking at that. I mean, as I mentioned, we've kind of collected and processed about 140 million health samples. So we've got an AI engine that does one thing, and that does, you know, prediction of failure, but we've got another engine in development. We're actually comparing all of the machines against each other. So if we can see, what type of particular manufacturer is working well, which type of pump is, likely to fail earlier than others. There's a lot of insight and a lot of data to be gathered from that. But you can appreciate with that much data, it's not a human's job at that point. It is very much, some very, very clever maths and some very smart people that can work through that. But there's a lot of insights and there's a lot of, really valuable information to be had. We're starting to augment that as part of our service. So we're using the AI to feed back into the service so that the service becomes a better experience. And that's just continuing to grow, as we advance more, as we collect more valuable data. As I said earlier, we're collecting weather data. So if you can actually see how the weather is impacting on your machines, you can actually see, potentially that climate change is actually ruining machines faster, things like that. So we're not actually offering it out as a service because it's the client's data. Data privacy, data sovereignty, data security is really quite key. So we're very conscious of that. And, part of our clauses is that we will provide a better service back to you as a customer. So that's what we're really focused on, is not kind of selling other people's data or, if in that way, it's really about trying to deliver and enhance the experience.
Excellent. So I might, we're getting close to the top of the hour. I might just give you both a minute to offer any other insights into service before we wrap up. We'll kick off with you, Sandra, if there's anything to add.
Look, I think at the end of the day, our business, every business, and any time we're dealing with an exchange or value or service, product, service, whatnot, we're dealing with people. So I think that it's really important these days is selling and manufacturing is all built on relationships. And as we spoke about customer experience, if we can give them a great customer experience, then we're going to hopefully see them come back and there's going to be repeat business. I think it's all about showing value, creating that experience, and striving, I guess, to exceed the customer's expectations. So it's that, give them more than what they're expecting, because that's what's going to keep them coming back. And I think collaboration, I think that, like I said, it's that individually we're one drop, but together we could be an ocean, collaborating more where we can to help grow our businesses as well, can also help this industry overall. But yeah, look, I just think that service is important. And I think if we can create the experience to our customers, I think then we're doing something right.
Great. And Brad?
I guess in summary, I think as manufacturers, we need to think, manufacturing a product is great. That's where the product stops. But once the product's in the hands of the customer, that's where the service starts. And if you can kind of build a business that does both of those successfully and you're able to monetize that very successfully, then, you can get really great loops happening. The services give you an opportunity to learn how your product is used by your customer. How important is it in their day? How can it be made more important in their day? And you can feed that back into your product design. So the smiley face actually should be folded back on each other, and I think if you can turn the smile into a circle, you can really think about how to reinvent your business by providing that feedback loop back into your product design, back into your learnings. Then you're getting a better experience to the customer in the end. So service, if you think about service as a way to kind of close the loop, then you can definitely lift a lot of things. Profitability, intimacy with the customer also creates that trust. That trust enables you to grow that customer, rather than shake hands at the door when the product's sold. Creates a new extension of your business that actually feeds back into a better business ultimately.
Yeah, and I say customer service isn't a department; it's everybody's job. And I really do say, at the end of the day, it's service with a smile. It's all about creating a really good relationship, good energy. And I think everybody's responsible for that element in any business of providing that great experience and service to their customers. So I'll leave you on that note. Yeah.
Service with a smile, or as Brad says, service is a circle. So, Brad, I note that you're replying to a customer about good data from bad, an attendee about good data from bad. So I'll let you do that while I summarise. So we'll bring up our last slide. Services is the seventh and final, or in Brad's view, the first step of the returning manufacturing value chain. Services relate to customer service, personalised service, marketing and communications, and any other activities that relate to productive business and customer after production. Services that can be offered have evolved over the years, and you know, as we stepped out in the beginning, services become a critical element of manufacturing businesses and also a significant contributor to the value that your business can derive. It focuses on customer needs, digitisation, and start-to-end services. As Sandra said, strong and personalised services can benefit manufacturing companies' reputation, brand, and quite frankly, customer loyalty and stickiness. Manufacturers can collaborate with a marketing company and enjoy a customer service professional if they need to, employ. And they can utilise the value of services to build their manufacturing value chain. So I'd like to thank both of you for the time you've taken out of your day. And just remember that if anything has rung true, which we hope it has today, please, if you're not a member, you can join AMGC via our website. It's free. You can also engage with us via our social media channels. Also remember that there is the Manufacturing Academy, and that's to hear from your peers about their experience across the manufacturing value chain, but also in running a business and a manufacturing business in Australia. And given the circumstances some of us find us in, unlike Michael, who would normally broadcast from his mobile Zoom, I'm from spare room come library come office. If you do need any supplies in relation to COVID-19, you can visit the Manufacturers Response Register to procure any of those PPE or other items you might need. Once again, Sandra and Brad, really do thank you for the time that you've spent with us today and your insights. I hope I did Michael proud by standing in for him, and look, I look forward to at some point swinging by Sandra, given that you're near where I am. Absolutely. And Brad, I'm sure at some point we'll cross paths as well. Encourage anybody, if they need any more information, to get in touch with us. So that's 1 o'clock. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you for rounding out our 7 Ways series. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Stay safe.
Thanks all.
Bye.
Bye-bye.